Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Kodiak Island Borough Assembly Work Session. We're located in the Assembly Chambers. Today is Thursday, April 13th, 2023. It is 6:30 p.m., and we will begin tonight with citizen comments. If you'd like to call in, it's 1-907-486-3231, or you can use our toll-free number, 1-855-492-9202. Not seeing any comments from the audience or call-ins, we'll move right into the agenda. Our first item on the agenda tonight is consideration and discussion to the change in the travel policy. Sorry, are you guys here for citizens' comment tonight? Okay, we're going to go backwards for just one moment. We just went past it, but we had some people just join us here in the chamber. So when you guys are ready, you have a 3-minute limit, and you can just come up right here to the podium and be sure to sign in and state your name for the record. No problem. And when this is the work session, and if you just go ahead and push the bottom at the base so your light is green. I know that was a lot of information at once, sorry.
Hello, thank you so much for making time for us. My name is Rebecca Shields, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kodiak Women's Resource and Crisis Center. And I'd like to start my comments by just thanking you all for your continued support of our agency and what we've received over the years. The Kodiak Women's Resource and Crisis Center, we're a nonprofit agency. Our services are provided in 4 components: immediate safety for victims and families. We're a 25-bed shelter that shelters victims of domestic violence and sexual assault in dangerous situations. And then the second component is that we're advocacy and case management. Part of our staff is, well, they're all trained staff in advocacy, and they work with our clients that are in crisis and follow them through the systems here in Kodiak to help them maintain safety and to utilize all of the services that are in Kodiak. We have our community coordinations and our response teams, and this is where we work with law enforcement, the court systems, the criminal justice systems, and some of our mental health and substance use disorder agencies in order to help build better pathways for people that are in crisis to access and get to the services that they need. We have outreach and education, so a part of what we do is educating the community on the issues of domestic violence and sexual assault and how to prevent violence and create a more safe community for all of us. So our agency directly services a core part of for our community and safety in our community. It helps families that are in crisis to continue to function and be in our community. So I'm here to address KWRCC specifically, but I'm also here just as a nonprofit agency and as a community member who benefits from the vast programs and services that nonprofits bring to Kodiak. So while the borough funding has been very consistent and appreciated in recent years, but it has also decreased significantly. And while it has decreased, the cost of running programs has significantly increased. Just citing a few examples from my own budget, the price of fuel has risen dramatically, as I know you're all aware of. The price of health insurance for our employees has risen significantly. The price of having insurance just so that we can run our agency and do the things that we do has also risen. So it's just so important in order for us to continue to function and do the things that go directly to the core of life in Kodiak and making sure that the people here are safe and cared for. So I truly hope that as you make your discussions and have your discussions tonight, that you'll consider nonprofits and the important role that nonprofits play in our community. And if there is a way for you to see putting in more funding for nonprofits, I think you really will get back more than what you're putting in, because we all have our heart into it. We're members of this community, and we want to give back to it. Thank you again for all that you have done for us.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Penny Lample, and I don't have a paper. I am the shelter coordinator and the sexual assault coordinator for the Kodiak Women's Resource and Crisis Center. Like Rebecca said, I think that our nonprofits, not because I work there, I think that they're very, very important. We've helped a lot of families. Just in the past 2 years, we've had at least 17 success stories where these women and children are living without their perpetrators, with their children, working alone, living alone. And that has really helped our community. It's helped them, and that's what we're geared to do. We also have a case manager that we've implemented into our program within the last 3 years. She will help traumatize people with all of their paperwork. We help people do restraining orders, custody, divorce. We help them with public assistance, if anything they need. So paperwork is hard when somebody just hands you a pile of it and you're really in a trauma state of mind. The work that we do is important to our future children growing up and to the people that are. So I really hope that you can find it in your hearts to keep us in your fight, and we really appreciate that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Not any other comments. We'll move on to our agenda. First one tonight is consideration and discussion change travel policy. Stop for Borough. Thank you.
Evening. The project started, I don't know, October, November last year. We don't have one making travel arrangements, and since travel is to open up and in-person conferences are being held, we thought it better that we provide a document with parameters and who are making travel arrangements, provide clarity around that. Thank you.
Are there any assembly questions at this time for the new travel policy? Jeff.
Thank you. Just the title of it implies that there already is a travel policy, right? Is there a version of what changes you're proposing to make, or is this just a rewrite of it?
What we currently have is some cold emails from the attorney regarding
We're now answering call on the queue.
specific topics. There is a travel policy that's probably 3 paragraphs CBA. I can certainly provide.
I'm just trying to get a base of what change is being proposed. It sounds like one is trying to take the pieces that we have and put them into an actual policy document.
To make it some definitions.
So just point out that Scott has called in, that's the phone call, so Scott with us now. Are there any questions about the policy from the Assembly? Go ahead.
I would look to change on page 7 under procedure. There's a line that no personal travel will be appended. I'm assuming that means added before or after borough travel paid arrangements. I'd like clarification on that.
That is correct. Their staff has that rule. It's been loosely enforced, but as stated earlier, this will help solidify a policy that everyone follows.
I'll follow up on that then. This policy applies to boards and commissions. Boards and commissions are non-paid, non-salaried positions, and I think it's appropriate. I don't see the problem in allowing personal travel before or after. So that's something that I think is a bit of a problem.
Scott, do you have a specific question surrounding that?
Well, exclude the Borough Assembly and the other non-salaried employees from it.
Before the for approval, will this be handled at the manager level?
We wanted to get some discussion about it, and I believe the plan is to put it technically into our manual, which will come before you as an ordinance, because the personnel matter is ordinance related, but there are several that will probably occur. We patch them up after the negotiations are finished if there are changes there, so that it happens all at once instead of plaguing you with them every month.
Thank you. Outside of Scott's comment, his concerns about non-salaried employees, there's any other comments tonight from the Assembly? Not any.
One other thing I'd like to add to that is I see the problem with a Borough Assembly member or an employee needs to potentially get some medical.
Maybe why it's not. When you arrange travel, let's say that you leave on a Monday from Kodiak, going to, let's call it Vegas, for a conference. That travel is let's call it 7 days. So you're going to come back on the following Sunday. That the price of that flight for the first flight or the second flight, whichever you want, whichever way you look at it, the person flies early to some vacations, health services, visiting family, what they leave 7 days early. That ticket may be $200 or $300 difference. Who's going to absorb that? The borough's going to absorb it. Then you look at it the other way. They're arriving later than what was for that conference. That could be hundreds of dollars difference as well. Angel, I understand what I'm trying to say is, maybe it's a benefit for our employees to be able to ride along with the travel. I understand that. But when it comes to seeing a ticket yesterday for somebody to leave the island on the 1st of May. If they had left 3 days earlier, that was $600 less where they needed to go. And so I understand that it's going to cost significant amount of money for, depending on when those days are picked. And so I see what the policy is trying to do, but I also agree with, to a certain extent, that it does benefit the employee a little bit. And how do we take that? If sometimes they could money, having extended pieces on certain travel, you're supposed to be going for a certain reason. When you're one of those 3 participants, you're supposed to be going for a certain reason and then come back and report on that activity. It's not necessarily the same for an employee. So I tend to agree with taking those 3 out. But it's not just up to me.
Thank you, James. Larry?
True that the manager approves all.
We haven't traveled that much. Usually the department director does. If I just insert just for a second, the other costs we've seen that get confusing per diem and hotel stays.
Where I'm going here is whether it's a director or manager. From my point of view, travel is a real pain. People perk, it's usually not, especially with things you have to listen to, pretend to like. In any case, this is a that is with them or the policy that if you take a trip, the borough will not pay any money that would have paid for the trip. It's easy to check. And if somebody wants to do that, I visit my old grandmother that happened to be classy with her in today. It's easy. I believe it's easy to determine whether it's going to cost extra, and the employee has to pay any and plane fare. It's easy to check on. It's not complicated. And I just think it's would be taken care of by the manager or director, and not complicated. When you travel, you have to do it at all. What they don't like, it's just ripples, and so the ability to stop for a day to go to a doctor or to go to Costco, as long as
certain individuals or not. I think that policy ought to sit for everybody in the borough in that regard. The other piece is, 2 years ago, we whacked all travel from the budget. And so that sits in the back of my mind, too, saying 2 years ago, we just cut the funding to it entirely or froze the funding to it entirely. So I'm not inclined to see the borough absorb additional expenses for travel, whether in an employee perk or not, and extend that by a couple of days so she can go visit her mother or whatever she needs to do in that regard. And there's a change fee, then she has to submit that receipt to them as well, and she pays the difference for that travel. And it seems to work pretty well. She's responsible for booking all her travel, so she gives them, here's what it cost, and here's what it's going to cost for me to change it. And then we cut a check and we move on. So
multiple classes. University of Alaska, we've been doing what Jeff and Larry have suggested, and the process works fine. You book your travel, and and if you want to stay extra, yeah, you look at the flights, whatever the difference is, you pay the difference. I think it's a pretty common, I think it's a fairly common practice. Every organization I've worked with has had that in their travel policy. Yeah, it does add a little bit more, I think, on the accounting side, obviously, but I think it's a you know, benefit that cost except in accounting time. But I think it's
also to travel. In my experience, with the last place I worked, we did travel a profit organization that made as long as it didn't go over what the borough was intending to pay in the first place.
Thank you, Joe. James?
So, listening to some of the comments, it sounds like
Back to you, like I said, as part of the personnel manual at a later date, so there's another opportunity to talk about this then, too.
Perfect. Thank you, Dora. Any other comments on this agenda item? Okay, we'll move forward to the fiscal year 2024 budget discussion. We're getting thumbs up from this assembly for that. Is there any other objections? Do we have any for fiscal year 2023-16? 16? Excuse me, I'm going to have water. All right, I'm back. Regarding Title IV service areas for Mission Lake and Tigate service area to increase the membership of the board, which we had the intro to last week. Is there any move on to resolutions for next week? The first resolution is fiscal year 23-24, approving the Native Village of Karluk and Karluk IRA Tribal Council as an unincorporated community for participation in the fiscal year 24 Community Assistance Program. This is something that we do annually for the state. Are there any questions or comments from the assembly tonight? Not seeing any. We'll move on to the next resolution, which is fiscal year 23-25, authorizing the borough manager to enter into a memorandum of agreement for participation in the Alaska Healthy and Equitable Communities Program. Anything you'd like to tell us about that?
Aside from here, no, it will help pay for most of the study for the contract for the community assessment and the health facility assessment. So it's cool.
Actually, great. There are really questions or comments about that tonight. And yes, Jared.
I'm looking for the line, and then I lost it. Well, so it's we're eligible for $200 less funds by other cities in the borough. So is this like a 50-50 thing? The city also goes for a chunk of this money?
I'm not sure exactly what the ratio is. Megan and Dave worked mostly on this.
The packet review for next week is the nomination of the Uzinki mayor, which is Mayor Jackson, for the Kodiak Village Mayors Association seat on the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council Board of Directors. And he volunteered to do that seat again, so that was great. Is there any questions about his appointment?
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes,
could speak
absolutely.
to this a little bit. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a history on this appointment. Because I was asked, is it an assembly appointment or is it a mayoral appointment? It seems like it's a nomination. So historically, the venue for this appointment was discussed. Years we used to have a mayor conference where the mayor would host and invite all the from the villages and the cities of the community, and that was the venue when the appointee would be discussed between from the villages. Now we haven't had mayor's conference for many years, and we were wondering. I was talking to Jennifer from if we were brainstorming if maybe rural maybe a good venue for this, and they're gearing back up, and they're going to be convening again. Next meeting, I think they're having the end of the month, and then the week in September. So she had told me this morning, because I was talking to her about this appointment, and they would not be opposed to put this on their agenda. It's something, that you would to discuss in the future. So I just wanted to share the information with you. If you're willing to give up nomination, I feel that would be venue, and the rural leadership forum make the recommendation, and then it's something that could be discussed. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I have a seat on the board of directors, and it feels very appropriate to me that our village mayors would have in who represent them that board instead of appointing them. Unfortunately, there's only one person that was interested, so it was a really easy decision. But hopefully, in the future, there would be more interest.
Thank you. The leadership forum is on 26th to the 29th this year, and I like Mayor Jackson's volunteer. This, I don't know where he finds the time. He's so busy with other things, but certainly it can be brought there. And I will be attending the forum for these 2 of the day, so we'll not make gonna make before until after one. But I think that would be a great choice.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments? And that is package review. So that brings us back to the agenda item B for fiscal year 2024 budget discussion. Are there any topics that the Assembly would like to talk about tonight concerning the 2024 budget? James just flashed the Kodiak Borough facility fund update that we received. Is there something you wanted to say about that, James?
No, not necessarily.
Dora.
Just that it was here.
So, just a couple of items. When the manager's budget was dispersed, there was a question about the facility fund, so I thought I would share what facilities fund has done in 2 years, and if you had any questions on that. There was also a question regarding what the fund balance was for the fund. So, taking out was unavailable spent budget item for this year. Taking the reserve into consideration, there's a approximate 1.5 in our fund.
Okay, I'll start us off. So the first thing, I wonder if we can just go down, not every department, because I don't think every department. I guess I just have general questions about like the more significant increases, and partly some of them I do know, but also for the public too. Increases between the 2023 amended budget and then the manager's budget. So it looks like most of the increases are due to personnel because of the are the increase personnel also figuring in changes in the CBA, or those haven't really been estimated in?
No.
Okay. Another big increase that is IT for professional services and support goods. I don't see anybody from IT here, but okay.
Be me. So that is an extra 150 estimate for license fees while we convert from, so there's most of the increase in that department. That and the GIS is budgeted in FY23 in the Community Development Department, and in FY24 that's moving back to
Gotcha.
the IT department.
Okay.
So there's a change there too.
Okay. And the license fees and data conversion consultation, that's just for FY24. Once we switch over, or once we have converted everything, then we just have to pay one license and.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then it looks.
Have personnel, but we did allocate more personnel time to those departments for additional playground, in particular, maintenance and installation, along with, I think, tsunami sirens too for the emergency.
Okay, so it's just reflecting of staff time that's going to have, that will come under. Okay.
So instead of, say, being budgeted in the department, it's budgeted in the Parks Department.
Anything else? You're just giving them more assignments. Is that correct? $1,000 to manage those two accounts. It just doesn't make any sense to me. In terms of their time is being cut, or that budget, it looks like it's being cut because less of the time now has been assigned.
KFRC this much, he's going to be working at the hospital this much, he's going to be working at various buildings, he's going to do Parks and Rec. And say they're all 20%. Hospital has been reallocated to Parks and Rec. And sadly, as you look at these, the temporary help is seasonal help, and the salaries would be regular staff. So if we're seeing temporary help, that would be somebody that we hire. And the part I made.
So just a comment, I have to think about this. Thought of contracting with the parks or the trails network.
Cleaning this up and putting the people where they need to be, because we had this discussion last budget about moving personnel kind of where they actually spent the money, and I appreciate that. So I get the changes. There's two things that I do see. One is in legislative and one is in the manager's budget. If I can get to the manager's budget first. So for years and years and years, we've allocated a portion of manager's budget solid waste. This year we don't have anything. We have it for the hospital and KFRC. We're saying the new manager is not going to deal with solid waste. So,
Okay.
and the other thing is, so for 5 years, there was no rent charged to legislative, and now there's $55,000. And I realize that in part is because number until now.
So the rent for the chambers here was being allocated.
Sense. But then there's an increase on rent for every single department, if you look at it that way. So if we're taking pieces of that rent from every department, all of a sudden we're.
Departments. I know the interim manager has brought up the need for additional positions that may or may not be something. I think in some regards, knowing that if we are taking a staff member and assigning them.
Put something together for you.
I think it'd be hard to be pretty accurate, though, because projects are always changing.
Enough other things to be spending time on. I'm just trying to look at the picture of saying if I understand we're short-staffed right now, we have unfilled positions right now.
Jenna's allocated 30% to solid waste.
30 to 40 LTP.
20% to E&F, and there's other allocations there too. And I don't know 6 employees this year, and we had 46 employees last year.
That you have, because, on the Perks and Rec, it looks like this year we suffered because the hospital was a priority for that employee. And next year, when the budget is at revenue, or do you deduct what you?
No, it's revenue to the Building and Grounds Fund, 220.
I see. And how long has that been going on?
Ever since I've been here, so at least 12 years.
Okay, so the district used to pay rent for when they were over here in this building, and then when they moved.
The one thing talking about a negative number here.
You're talking about the one you're looking at?
Yep.
Okay. So that's how much property tax revenue, assuming we get all those other reimbursements, that we need to charge on our tax statements to the taxpayers in order to make our debt service step payments.
What's the idea that we might put?
Can I present that differently? That makes more sense?
No, it makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense. The MAPTR. Let's talk about the MAPTR. If the MAPTR, anyway, it basically comes up that the allowable is 9 mils for general fund and for education support.
So the most we can,
15.6 is what I'm asking. Not the actual mills, but the 15.6.
money collection, yeah.
Correct.
I like questions, so ask them.
Back to Larry.
Well, a simple question. The Assembly sort of agreed by consensus to zero growth the school district's request at this point. So this budget doesn't include their request of about $500,000 more. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
But you guys can kind of play with this.
Convinced that we'll get 100% state reimbursement.
Scott Arndt, are you still on the phone, and do you have? We're kidding. We'll make sure that you get that when you get back. And I don't see any other. Is there any other questions from the Assembly tonight concerning the budget? Thank you so much for your time. You guys look good sitting at the table up front, and the end. And so I was like, we're at the end. One moment, please. We'll get there. Jenna, do you have any manager's comments tonight?
There's only a few slight changes in the report from last week's Community Cleanup Day. And
Just as an FYI to the Assembly, some of these travels are specific only to the appointed board members of the different organizations. The conference that will be open to the mayor and the Assembly will be the AML Summer Legislative Conference in Homer, Alaska on August 9th and 9th through the 11th. Lodging is extremely limited at the conference hotel. We were able to block three rooms. So if there's a few of you that are interested, who are interested in going, please let me know as soon as possible. So find extra rooms. And one other thing I would like to remind everyone, to the listening public, that the mayoral application forms are posted on the Borough website, and they are also available in the clerk's office. We're accepting applications April 7th until 21st. So interviews are scheduled on April 27th, and possible appointment and oath of office on April. That's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Yeah.
the fire chief position has been posted on accepting applications. I cannot think right now. Millbay. I always Millbay, like Bayside. Bayside. We say Millbay, but it's Bayside there.
That's great to advertise as well. That brings us to Assembly member comments, and we will start with Larry tonight.
I just want to echo Assembly Member Turner. Thank you. Nice job on the budget. Clear. And I appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry. Sorry, Jeff?
thank you for the budget, and it is clear, and it's. I'll spend a little more time going through it because I'll have a few more questions, but I appreciate that. And I think the only other comment I have, Steve, is at some point, whether that be an executive session or another time, I'd like us to bring up the contents of the folder we were given last week, some discussion about, and make some decisions on what that information.
Thank you, Jeff. Jared?
Before I forget, I would second Jeff's comments about looking at that document. So I don't think good information that the public is. So we went to it's worth a discussion.
Madam Mayor, is something you would like me to add to the next agenda next week, and I could also invite the attorney to join us in executive session.
Can we executive into the April 20th meeting and we'll talk about that?
Okay.
Yes, thank you for the packet. It's fantastic. And I think also an eye on SB 77. It's really interesting. I think it has a good house and could open up some new development. Gives us flexibility to open up some more development, and then take some of the more run properties. And there's another bill, and I don't remember when it is. I think it's House now is to limit municipality powers and the public safety. And I think it's also interest for affect the way that's.
Thank you, Jared. Joe?
I'd like to say, encourage people to apply for that seat, and to not only that, the assembly seat is going to be even for as and maybe even important to for these boards and commissions. A lot of the real because before it comes to us, times have problems getting terms at on these boards and commissions, and they are important. Encourage people to sign up for these things. Staff for the work that they've done for us. Another that we have not done, but I'm very appreciative of, are the other assembly members that I sit with here. I've learned a lot from them, and I appreciate all of the hard work that you guys do as well, and Mayor Williams. So that's it for tonight.
Thank you, Joe. James?
So we had quite a few comments sent to the clerk regarding a particular topic, and I know that there's been very little discussion on it, just because people are trying to tiptoe around the subject. Basically, we were discussing the manager's position for months on end. This is something that was a frustrating topic because we couldn't find anybody. We didn't get qualified applicants, at least in my opinion. We went into executive session to discuss a couple of the applicants at the time, and when we came out, I put something on the table. He thinks that we're talking about executive session. I'm not going to comment on the piece, but other than my position, and that is that I came out, I threw a Hail Mary, if you will, about this, and nominated somebody. And Now people are having issues with it because they think that we discussed in executive session. I did not discuss this in executive session. I can say that because it was my own words that were in there about breaking executive session issues. I threw it out on the table when we came out because I was just tired of going over application after application and not getting somebody that was somebody that we wanted in Kodiak. And for some reason, that wild hair stuck. Everybody agreed. And so that's how this whole process went. We've been talking about an applicant after applicant after applicant. And I came out and said something, and everybody agreed. So that's how this whole thing went down. And if anybody else has any problems, they can call me up. I came up with this. I could have needed anybody on this bias if I wanted to. I just chose me because I thought she was the perfect candidate. So there was no door dealing. There was just wild. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Scott, any tonight?
No further comment. Thank you.
And I did cut off Larry earlier, and he has more thoughts to share.
Yeah, when I was looking at the budget, I talked earlier about emergency services. Look at our agendas, except for they're relatively short in brief. And it may be a good time to start, and maybe this happened, a review of emergency services and relationship with the city to evaluate those protocols between the city, and Coast Guard, and the borough. Take a close look at that to get together and say, was it satisfactory? What's our relationship with our rural sites? To sit down and really look at that. We've got some experience with it. You know, we wrote it many years ago. It was used. And it may be time for us to get together and roll up our sleeves and sit down with the city and take a look at what worked good, what didn't, what changes would benefit our community, because the world's in crisis. Who knows what's going to happen? We're seeing weather patterns around the world that we haven't seen in years. When I was a kid, we used to have 100-mile-an-hour winds, you know, and they'd blow, and we haven't had those for a long time. These 70-mile-an-hour winds are nothing compared to what we used to have. I think it's really time we're not in a crisis. Really sit down and we revisit, have community drills. We met, we had, you know, scenarios that we would run from gas leaks in town to, and we haven't done that in a long time. And if anything, we've seen how anything happens, our nation in the world can keep in on us and need it all. And I think we have an opportunity because we've had a long experience working with emergency services to sit, roll up our sleeves, and have good discussions about it and see what comes up. So I guess what I'm requesting to the mayor is that we have a work session, you know, talk about it a little, and then bring in the city, review it, see what they think, what worked, what didn't work, if there's changes, what we can do to enhance it, what we can do to make sure that we have budget training, tabletop exercises, that we're sort of, I don't think we're right, although I do well for Kodiak.
We'll be sure to bring that up in agenda upcoming. Quick comments for me. Just want the community that cruise ship season is almost here. It starts May 2nd. We can start seeing Borough International Convention, so you're going to see a lot of Rotarians in town as well. Will almost overlap with cruise ships because there are two on the 10th at the same time. You'll see one at Anchor and one here. So we haven't had in the last few years, so just wanted to let people know to keep an eye out for that. Our next meeting will be a regular meeting at on Thursday, 20th at 6:30 p.m. right here in the Assembly chambers. And with that, this time we will call it adjourned. Thank you.